The story starts off with Kratos cutting down a tree. This is the most current God of War game after he separated himself from the Blades of Chaos and from his old Greek life. In this new Norse world, he chooses to live as a man and had a wife named Faye. Together they had a child named Atreus, so Kratos is cutting down this tree that Faye marked because she wanted specific trees to be used for her funeral pyre. We find out later that she chose this tree specifically to break the protection stave keeping monsters from their house, and I imagine that this was to force Kratos and Atreus into their journey early. So when Kratos cremates his wife, who's dead by the way, he decides to teach Atreus to hunt as per her final wish. It is interesting to note that we never see Faye in this game, and it's never stated how she died. Regardless, Kratos and Atreus do some hunting, and when they're done, a stranger knocks on their door. This guy is actually important, so don't forget about him. Kratos and the stranger fight an anime-like battle, and Kratos believes that this is someone from his past who's come to kill him. So even though he doesn't believe Atreus is ready, they begin the journey anyway, with the goal being to spread Faye's ashes from the highest peak in all the 9 realms. At some point in their journey, they meet another important character. Brock. Brock and Sindri are master blacksmiths, and they assist you throughout the story with their shops, whether it be upgrading your axe or buying and upgrading armor and things like that. Brock specifically is a sarcastic old-sounding guy who cusses a lot and is at least partially responsible for the game's mature rating. We'll talk about Sindri later, so we meet Brock and we continue to go on our way for the journey. Later we meet the Wicked Witch of the Forest. She's just a witch for right now. She gives us a compass and it tells us to head towards the Lake of Nine. The Lake of Nine is just a giant lake with a temple in the center. Tyr's Temple. Surrounding the lake are 7 large towers that represent each of the Norse realms. Obviously one is missing, but we'll get to that later. When we reach the Lake of Nine, Tyr's Temple is submerged. The only thing that puts it above water is the World Serpent when he feels like moving. As we go through the story, when the World Serpent makes big movements, you can explore more of the shores at the Lake of Nine, especially because a boat is the main method of travel in this game aside from foot. So after the temple comes up, Brock claims it as his own and sets up shop while we continue to the mountain. We later run into Sindri at the mountain's base. We learn about him that he hates germs, which he compares to tiny monsters. We also learn that he had a relationship with Faye and made her an axe, which Kratos now uses. Sindri vows to help us on our journey. When we make it a bit further up the mountain, we encounter the Black Breath. The witch comes out of nowhere, although it's implied later that she flew here as an eagle, and explains that we have to go to Alphine and get the pure light of Alphine to continue. Once we get to Alphine, the witch is pulled back to Midgard by a curse, which is the main realm of the game. Kratos and Atreus make their way to the light pretty slowly, and when they reach it, after fighting many dark elves, Kratos is pulled in. He hears the real thoughts of Atreus and that if Kratos tries, Atreus will try. Just as he believes he's about to reach Faye, he's pulled out by Atreus. We discover that even though Kratos was only gone a minute or two, Atreus was left behind far longer and had to use the axe to kill a ton of elves. He's upset, but we're still focused on the goal. So now using the light, we unlock light arrows for Atreus to help us leave Alphine. On the way out, we get a short cutscene that highlights their taut relationship. Atreus believes that Kratos didn't love Faye and doesn't care much that she died. All because he's not spoken much of her passing. Kratos says something about not taking his silence as a lack of grief, and that puts the two on much better terms for a while at least. It's also important to note that Atreus hears voices in Alphine for some reason. When they reach Midgard, they head back to face the Black Breath and start ascending the mountain. At some point on the way up, they happen across a very large and dangerous dragon named Horazlir. The dragon attacks Sindri, so Kratos brings it down by Atreus' wishes. Afterwards, Sindri rewards us with arrows made of mistletoe and gives Atreus lightning attacks. We then reach the summit where the stranger from earlier interrogates someone with 2 others with him. We've learned by this point that the stranger is Baldur and he feels no pain and can't be killed. With him are his nephews Magni and Modi. When they leave, we find another important character, Mimir, who's really smart. He knows everything and agrees to help us. Unfortunately, he's also stuck in a tree. He doesn't really enjoy being stuck in the tree, so he agrees to let Kratos cut off his head, whether they can revive him using the witch's help or not. Before this, Mimir tells us that the highest peak in the realms is in Jotunheim and we need to get there now. So we cut off his head and take him to the witch, who revives him. As just ahead now, he tells us that the witch is actually Freya and she really doesn't like Mimir. Kratos is upset that Freya didn't reveal herself as a god, so he storms off. We then head over to an icy village in Midgard to find a magical chisel so we can carve the rune to go to Jotunheim. Just as we reach the magic chisel that was left by a dead frost giant, we run into Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor. Now we beat them after a long fight, and we kill Magni while Modi runs away. Atreus gets a bit sick, which I'll explain why a bit later. Regardless, we grab the magic chisel and head to Tyr's Temple to find the rune we have to carve with the chisel to go to Jotunheim. While we're there, Modi comes out of nowhere and catches Kratos off guard. Atreus tries to help but doesn't control his rage and passes out. This sends Kratos into a rage, knocking Modi away and immediately tending to his son. We take Atreus to Freya and she kinda forgives us and tells us we have to go to Helheim, but first we have to do the thing. You know, that thing. We have to go to Kratos' house and collect the Blades of Chaos. Now we'll talk about all the problems I have with this in the actual review for this game, which is the top link in the description. Make sure to check it out. So then we beat a bunch of ice zombies and go to Helheim. All the while, Kratos' past is haunting him when he sees visions of Zeus and Athena. We collect what we need to help Atreus and return to Freya. Atreus is better now, but Kratos has to tell him the real truth for him to get better truly. Because this entire time, Atreus hasn't known that he and his father are gods, and it's what makes him sick when he gets angry. It's his godly side fighting his human side. So, Kratos tells him, and that's that. So we go beneath Tyr's temple and grab the Black Rune, and we take it to the top of the mountain. Only Balder intercepts us and breaks the bridge. We then fight and end up in Helheim again, due to a blunder in the World Tree Room with Balder. All this time since Atreus was healed, he's been kind of a jerk, so it was pretty obvious we weren't about to go to Jotunheim, but still. So Kratos gives him a stern talking to, and then they make a plan to get out. On the way out, Atreus sees a ghostly vision of Kratos killing his father, but pretends like he didn't. Funny that we also see Balder almost kill his mother too, which turns out to be Freya. So we make it out, and then we make a plan to flip Tyr's temple to reach a travel stone so we can jump off the World Tree without dying. By the way, we access the World Tree by traveling in the realm between realms for fast travel. We do so, and this brings back the Jotunheim Tower. And now we can go, we just have to get a travel crystal to focus the energy. We can use Mimir's eyes, but we have to find the other one. So we take the boat into the World Serpent and acquire it. But on the way out, the World Serpent gets some indigestion and drops us back at the dead giant for the climax. The World Serpent passes out, and Freya shows up to check things out. But we don't trust her now because she's been lying. And then Balder emerges from the water leading to us. He basically cusses Freya out and goes to kill her, but Kratos and Atreus stop him. Sometime in the following fight, Balder punches Atreus and accidentally impales himself with a bit of his mistletoe arrows. This breaks the spell that kept Balder from being able to die, and we promptly kill him. But not before Freya summons the dead giant to defeat us, but we still win and snap his neck. Even though he was going to kill her, Freya still doesn't forgive us and leaves with his body. We then use Mimir's eyes as a crystal to go to Jotunheim, and we discover that this entire journey was a prophecy for Atreus, and that his mother was watching him the entire way. We walk off to the peak just after Kratos sees a prophecy of his supposed death, but he says nothing and spreads the ashes of his wife with his son. The story closes with Kratos telling the story of Atreus' name. So yeah, that's the entire story, with a few skips here and there. And yeah, it's flawless. Watch the full review for more and subscribe to the Topical Hour if you enjoyed. Thank you.